And a lot of you follow me like this, okay? That's not a chin, yeah? That's a cheek, yeah? That's how it goes, okay? Excellent. So, can you actually hear me without microphone, or I need the microphone?
Use microphone.
Use microphone better.
Okay, I try. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody, fellow culinarians. I call you fellow culinarians because we all have had the same profession. I have it already, you aspire to become one, okay? My name is Ernst Huber. As you can read here, it's pronounced Huber, not Hopper. A lot of people call me Hopper. I said no, it's called Huber, okay? Also, let me thank you for SHATEC Institute to have me here today. It's my pleasure. I had to come here and try to share some experience from my career, from my life, so you get a little bit an idea what you actually can achieve in this profession. Here I still call it a profession. In Europe, when you are a cook, it's a profession. You have a certificate as a professional cook, okay? So I know the system here is a bit different, but to me, it's still a profession, okay? So once you finish, you get your paper, I consider you a professional cook, okay? So I am by training a professional cook and also a professional butcher. I have done 2 apprenticeships in Switzerland, and I have also done the restaurant school also in Switzerland, so I actually have 3. So I'm actually a triple professional in that sense, okay? Now let me see how this works. Fantastic. Okay, I'll tell you a little bit of my background. I was born in a small village in Switzerland. 100 people lived at that time in that village, so unknown to most of the people. But what I want to show you is that you don't have to come from a big city like Singapore in order to get somewhere. You can come from any background where you come. If you do the right thing, you will go somewhere, okay? I will highlight this again and again on the way this afternoon. I attended 6-year primary school and 2 years secondary school, which you could say is like here O-level, okay? So my basic, my school education is O-level, that's it, okay? So a lot of people ask me, which university you go? I said, I only walk around the university. I never go inside, okay? Okay? So I believe we can achieve a lot of things without going to the university, okay? That is not necessary. If I could have gone or not is another thing, but in those days when I grew up in Switzerland, there was no pressure on young people. You have to go to the university, you have to achieve this, you have to do that. My parents were very good. They just said, you do what you like, okay, more or less, okay? There was no pressure. And since my parents had a restaurant, so I was helping my mother cooking from very young, so I became interested. So that's why I learned this, so I was not interested to go to school. I was very happy when my 2-year secondary school, which was compulsory, I mean in total 8 years school is compulsory, was finished, so I could go, okay? So I was celebrating, okay, when my school was finished. I then started an apprenticeship, we call it in Switzerland or in most countries in Europe, we call it an apprenticeship. That means I make a contract with a butcher, because we still had a lot of butcher shops around. So you make a 3-year contract, and then you work in the butcher shop every day. On 1 day a week, you go to school. Okay, that's the system we have in Switzerland. Even today, it's the same thing. So I worked 5 days, 1 day school, Sunday off. Okay, but otherwise we worked 6 days, full day. Okay, that is for 3 years, and then they have to train me in specific things. We even slaughtered ourselves, so I have slaughtered cows, pigs, veals, sheep, yeah, and then learn to debone it, sausage making, all these things is part of it, okay? So that goes on for 3 years, and then we do a test, right? One person for 2 days test with 2 experts who look at you and check you. If you pass, then you get a certificate as a professional butcher. Okay, that's how it works in most countries in Europe. After I finished that was from 1963 until 1966. Then after that I started a cook apprenticeship, which will normally be 2.5 years at that time, but I only had to do 2 years because I already learned a profession of butcher. So if you studied first butchery or pastry, then they cut you half a year because I didn't have to learn that anymore. So it saved time, okay? So then I did my apprenticeship as a cook, and then following the 10-week restaurant school, and then I was done with my basic education, okay? When I say basic education, that's what you do in school or in practicum. And then after that, then we go out and we go into the life education, okay? I call this always the university of life, okay? That's when you start working. That's when, to me, life really starts, okay? Now you're still having good time, right? Although you're studying, you're learning, but it's still a lot of fun, it's still a lot of heavy. Once you go out to work, that's when work starts, okay? So I was lucky, I met an executive chef with Hilton during my time in the restaurant school, and after he finished the school, he was posted to Malta, to the Malta Hilton as executive chef, and then he called me and he said he needs people if I'm interested to come and join him in Malta. Malta is an island in the Mediterranean Sea between Italy and Africa. In between there, it's a small island, probably the size of Singapore about. So I decided, okay, I'll go and join him. So in 1968, I went to the Malta Hilton, and I was at that time what was called the chef de partie. Anybody knows what that means, a chef de partie? I don't think we use these terms anymore. It's obviously a French term, which means the chef of a section, okay? So we used to have sections like the saucier, the one who cooks the meat and the sauces, then the entremetier, who does the soups, vegetables, potatoes section, then the garde-manger, which does the cold food, and of course the pâtissier, who does the pastry stuff. So these were different sections. Let me see, okay. So I went to Malta, was quite interesting in the sense that it was my first assignment overseas. And Malta, as I said, small island, not so populated as Singapore. I think there were only about 60,000 people in Malta. And I didn't speak a word of English. Maybe yes or no, I knew. So I went there, and I also had to learn the language. So if my English is not so good, I hope you excuse me. I never went to school to learn English, okay? I learned English in the kitchen, okay? That's where I learned my English, okay? I never went to school for English. Okay, Malta was, as I said, a small island, was interesting, was quite busy, was hard work, but what I learned very quickly is that when you go abroad, when you go to other countries, you have to adapt to their habits and systems. Okay, they don't adapt to you. You have to adapt to them. Okay, so if later any one of you has the chance to go abroad or is going abroad, always remember the people wherever you go, they don't adapt to you. You adapt to them. Okay, that's how it works. Okay. I also find out very quickly that you always treat people as people. The background of somebody is not important, is not relevant. Some people are smarter by chance, some are not so, but they're still people. So you always make sure in life you treat people as people, okay? Exactly like you treat your friend or people you don't know so good, you treat them like your friend. That is a very, very important life lesson, okay? So don't, if anybody thinks, you know, that person over there is maybe not so fast learning, not so this, not so that. Everybody has different abilities, everybody has strengths, everybody has weaknesses, okay? So you may be strong in one thing, another person is not so strong, but is maybe strong in another thing, okay? So very important, you want to move on in life, treat everybody the same. Try to treat everybody the same. As it says in the Singapore Pledge already, regardless of race or religion. And that is like this in life. I have worked in, I think, about 10 countries around the world. So I really have experience, okay? After that, I got a transfer from Hilton and I went to Tehran. I was in Tehran is the capital of Iran. I was there in 71 when, what we say, the times were good. The Shah was still the ruler at that time of Iran, and it was a pretty open country at that time, although of course most people were Muslims, but there was also, I think about 15% were Christians, and the rest were Muslims, but in those days no restrictions. Everybody could do what they want. We had pork on the menu in the restaurants, all these things, everybody could do what they want. If they wanted to drink alcohol, they can, and so on. Of course, that was before the revolution, which you probably know from the newspaper and from TV, okay? So that was in 71. Tehran was the only country I was where actually people didn't speak English, okay? Nobody spoke English in Tehran. Educated people spoke either French or German because they went to Europe to universities for their education. But of course the people in the kitchen, in the hotel, with us in the kitchen, nobody spoke English. So again, as I said, we had to adapt, so we quickly had to learn some of the local language, which was called Farsi. In Iran they don't speak Arabic, they speak Farsi. It's different than Arabic. It sounds like, but it's different. So again, it was up to us to adapt to what people do there, and adapt to the life. It was not easy because we didn't have much besides our work. We worked, sleep, because it was an extremely busy hotel. It was actually the most busiest hotel of all the Hiltons around the world at that time, because it was the only 5-star hotel in Tehran. And everybody was moving to Tehran at that time, the industries, so you had a lot of business people coming down to Tehran. And I remember our hotel was fully booked 1 year in advance. So the restaurants, everything was really, really busy. That was a very, very busy time. But interesting in a way, as I said, lifestyle had to change, had to adapt, and actually the people were extremely nice. What I learned here is that even when people don't have high education themselves, they were very interested to make sure their children would have a better education than they had. So when we spoke with them, they always told us they save the money, they make sure their children can go to school and to become something better than they were, because opportunities started to open up. That was probably your parents' generation here in Singapore, okay? You are already one generation later, so you already almost have everything there is to have. Huh? Okay, then from Tehran, I moved to Nairobi, which is the capital of Kenya in East Africa. This was, in a way, maybe the nicest place I have been. I'm sure you have seen movies on TV, all the safaris, wild animals, huge spaces, and that's exactly how it is. Here again, very interesting. Most of our cooks, they spoke English, because it used to be a British colony, same as Singapore was, so they actually could speak English, but no education. Because at that time we had most of our cooks were about between 30 and 50 years old, in that range, and almost none of them went to school. Okay, because these were the olden times where they started only slowly to build schools all over the country, right? So-called in the jungle, okay? And so we had a lot of cooks, they never went to school. When they collected their salary with the thumbprint, because they couldn't write. They couldn't write their name. So it was quite challenging, because you couldn't write something down and give it to them, because they wouldn't be able to read it. So you had to do a lot of communication, right? Everything had to be by word. But again, very nice people, very warm people who were really interested to learn. They were maybe not the fastest learner, because they never went to school, so it was a bit new for them. Can you imagine, you're 30 years old and you go the first time to work in your life? Because before that they were just living in the jungle, right? Living from the fruits and the vegetables which grow, and they never went to work before. So many came to us at that age and they started working. So we had to show them over and over again, sometimes 2 times, sometimes 3 times, we had to show them the same thing. But once they understood, they would do it exactly the way you showed them. I always said you could show them, go for 10 years holiday, come back, and they would still do it exactly the same which you showed them. And I thought that was really fantastic, because they, as I said, they didn't have the intellectual to start to think, oh, can I do this different? Can I turn this way? Can I turn this the other way? No. They followed exactly what we showed them, what we teach them, nothing else. So in that way, it was quite easy, because once they understood, you knew that's exactly what they're going to do, okay? Okay, nothing else. But again, very warm people, very nice people. You treat them as a person, they respect you, they treat you back as a person. It was really a very warm relationship we had there with these people, and I think most of Africa is like this, at least in those days. Maybe now also too commercialized, too much other things going on, but at that time it was absolutely fantastic. So to me this was really a great experience in terms of people to people communication. So if I respect you, you automatically respect me. It's as simple as that. So really something you have to remember in your whole life, being it in your working life, in your private life. You don't respect somebody, don't expect that person respects you. No such thing. You respect the person respects you. It always comes back, okay? So this I really experienced at the Nairobi Hilton, in Nairobi, really fantastic. Then, 1973, I came the first time to Singapore in November 1973. Everything changed. Singapore was very different from all those other places I have been before. Singapore at that time was really starting to develop, and we had actually highly educated people in those days in the kitchen. We had A-level, we had junior college students who were working at the Hilton in the kitchen. Because in those days you had people already going to good school, better schools, but no job. no high-end job, right? What we call now, no IT yet, on all these things, okay? So we had a lot of very highly educated people who worked in the kitchen or in the service industry because they needed a job, right? They had to make an income. So when I came to Singapore, it was quite a bit a change for me coming from Africa. As I explained to you, you had to show everything 2-3 times, and then they did it forever exactly what you showed them. Here, exactly the opposite. You show them today, one time, understand, tomorrow you come, they do it differently. I said, why? Oh, I was thinking, maybe this one can turn this way, step 3, maybe I can, no need to do, you know. So we had people who could think, which was very difficult for me at that time to realize and to understand, you know, because but I showed you step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, but you know, if I do it this way, then step 3, I don't need to do until this. Then I said, how about the end result? Well, yeah, it's okay now. I said, it's only okay now, but it's not what we want. I said, I can also think. If I think step 3 not necessary, I don't teach you step 3, right? Why shall I do step 3 when it's not necessary, right? But we teach 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because it's necessary, because we want the end result has to be this, right? And we want it to be right, okay? So I'm sure as you are here in school, they will teach you, right? They will say, first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think there's a reason why they teach you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because there have been many, many professionals before you who have gone through this. And if there would be another way, I always say, I also would do it another way. Why would I do 5 steps if only 3 necessary? Right? Then I also would do only 3. But it needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because that's what it needs in order to achieve the right result. So for me that was very, very difficult when I came to Singapore at that time. Everybody, every day I check, I look, I say, why you do like this? I show you like this. Oh, I was thinking maybe this way, you know, if I can hold a knife like this and that and all these things. So I had great difficulties to actually adjust when I came the first time to Singapore. Also at that time, in case you don't know, the unions were still quite strong at that time, and I was also a young chef, and I had my temper, okay, and my energy, and then sometimes the personal manager called me down and said, Ernst, please calm down, please calm down. I say, yeah, I don't understand, you know, I show him like this, next day he wants to do different things, you know, all this. So, anyway, I just understand, when they teach you something, there is a specific reason why they teach in a certain way, okay? So try to follow. Later, when you have your own business, you can change everything you want, because then you are responsible for it, okay? Okay, so as I said, I came here, not easy. It took me a while to get used to it and to understand, okay? Then a few months later I became sous chef. I was promoted to sous chef, and eventually in early 1975 that was, the chef left, and then I became the executive chef here at the Singapore Hilton. I was then only here 2 more months, and then they called me from Kuala Lumpur, because the chef ran away in Kuala Lumpur, and the sous chef left 1 month before, and suddenly they had nobody in the kitchen who could do the market list. You ever heard what is a market list? You do one here? So, in those days, after lunch service, the chef would do the market list, meaning he would write down everything what he needs for the water, for the whole hotel, and then the purchasing department would order everything, and then the next day it arrives. It was done all in writing, no computer yet, okay? Everything was done in writing. So anyway, so they had nobody who could do this, and then they called me, and then they called my GM here, and then they said, oh, we need help. And then they off I went to Kuala Lumpur, to the Hilton, actually to help out until the new chef comes, okay? but then the new chef also never came. So then I stayed there. Actually, I liked it. And I'll tell you why. Malaysia at that time was again different than Singapore. I went to the KL Hilton. I started training. I talked to people. We promoted some people. All this. They were also quite smart. I mean, their education was good, but they didn't try to be smarter than me and try to turn things around. No, they listened. And they did what we teach them, and I actually liked it very much. So I then asked them if I can be transferred to Kuala Lumpur, because I thought I can do more with the people there than I could do here in Singapore at that time, okay? Because they were really listening, because they just wanted to learn. They didn't want to think more than that and turn things around. They just wanted to learn. And I think we had a great group of people there in Kuala Lumpur. Basically, most of the hotels today in Kuala Lumpur, probably the executive chef is one of the guys who was a chef de partie at that time when I was in Kuala Lumpur. So they all later on moved up, because they did had good basic school education, but their way how to do it and their character was quite different at that time. So I really enjoyed it actually in Kuala Lumpur. The place itself, Kuala Lumpur in those days, was a village. It was not a city like what you see today. It was really, I just called it a village. The core was very small, and it was big in that sense, but all low housing. Now, of course, it's very different, okay? But I enjoyed my 4 years at that time in Kuala Lumpur. Then, having finished my second contract in Kuala Lumpur, then I went to Seoul, Korea. The Hilton in Korea was at that time under construction, and I was supposed to take over the Hilton in Seoul, in Korea. But the owner of the Hilton, which was the Daewoo Group, the chairman wanted to open a French restaurant first, because he had every day he had business people who came for business negotiations. So he wanted quickly a restaurant which he can call his own restaurant, and he can have their lunch every day with the business people which came. So that's what he wanted. That's why he wanted the chef to come very fast. So they asked me if I want to go there. I said okay. So I went there. There also problem, nobody spoke English. There in Korea was really very difficult. Can you imagine you go to a place to work, there's nobody speaks English. I was very lucky. I found a sous chef who was working for many years on the ship. He was quite old already, but that didn't matter, that he was old. I just needed him as a translator. Because I had 7 people in the kitchen, and as I said, besides him, nobody spoke English, okay? So everything had to go through him, okay? Which makes, of course, everything a bit more difficult, okay? And then the Korean people are quite different in their approach. They are different in their characters and the way they live. I don't know, anybody of you has been in Korea already? You maybe only see Korean pop on TV, okay? But in those days was very different. They're quite harsh people, quite hard people. Women are second class in Korea, at least in those days. Now it's maybe a bit different. Now we have all the K-pop groups, so now they are very popular. But 30 years ago, no. Women were second class in Korea, okay? Only the men were the kings, okay? Was quite different. But again, it was for me to adjust, to find my way, how do I get along with them. Sometimes if I like it or not, but as I said, you go to another country, you have to adjust. You may not like everything, but then you have no choice, okay? But keep on smiling, okay? Otherwise you just make yourself more difficult. I think he needs another shake of the arms, eh? Morning. Okay. In 1980, I came back to Singapore. And in 1982, we opened the Dynasty Hotel. Anybody remember the Dynasty Hotel here? Maybe you were kids. Of course, Dennis was working with me at that time in Dynasty Hotel. He was my coffee shop chef at that time. Anybody else remember Dynasty Hotel? Too long ago, huh? Dynasty Hotel is what is now the Marriott Hotel. Okay, this was called the Dynasty Hotel, was opened by the Tang family from CK Tang department store, right? The family owns the whole complex and they also run the hotel at that time. So I started there as the executive chef until 1986, then got promoted to director of food and beverage, and then eventually resident manager, and for the last 1.5 years, also 1993, 94, I was the hotel manager of the Dynasty Hotel, okay? So I want you now to recall back where I said where I come from. A little village in Switzerland, you can come all the way up to become hotel manager of a big 5-star hotel in Singapore, okay? So that is what you can achieve, okay? So I always say when people ask me what's the limit, I always say there's no limit. It's only yourself are the limit, okay? What you want or what you can do, okay? So I really want to demonstrate to you all the ways I have been, what you can achieve. Okay, that's what you can achieve in this profession. Okay, but I haven't gone to university, remember, huh? It's hard work. It's purely hard work. Okay, hard work, adapt, change. That is extremely important, not only in your working life but also in your life in general. Okay, very important. Okay. Some other things I did in 1981, we formed the Leto Blanche Association, which was a French organization for chefs. However, this didn't work out very well, and then in 1984 we decided to form the Singapore Chefs Association. So I am the founder member, or actually the founder of the Singapore Chefs Association. Okay. In 1984 we changed. We then also became a member of the World Chefs Association, and of course Singapore is still a very well respected member of the World Chefs Association. Okay. In 1994 I went at the Goodwood Park Hotel for 7 months. I was there as the hotel manager. I left after 7 months. Was not my cup of tea there. Different owners, different values, different things. What was important to them was maybe less important to me. So after 7 months we said, okay, I think we might as well split. And I left the Goodwood Park Hotel. Okay. In 1994 then, I formed the company called Swiss Butchery, which you may have heard about it. They still exist at the moment, barely, but they still exist. I was of course part owner of this company, and I was also the managing director until early 2008. Okay. We then split in 2008, me and my other 2 shareholders. Then we had some problems, and then I left Swiss Butchery, and in the meantime my 2 sons, Ryan and Andre, they already started a business called Huber's Butchery, and that's where I'm now. That's what we have now. Okay. So in 2008 I joined Huber's Butchery. my two sons were nice enough, they made me the chairman. You know what that means, right? That means you have a chair to sit down. Okay? That's so you get a chair, okay? So you can sit down. Every day I go to the office, I count 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure make sure I still have 4 legs. Nobody cut off one leg, otherwise you fall down. No, that's a joke, okay? I hope not they cut off my leg on the chair, okay? So far so good. So I'm still there. I'm still the chairman of Butchery. I hope you heard of us. We have a big shop in Dempsey. I invite you, if you have time, on your off day, on a weekday, if you have time, go to Dempsey. You go up Dempsey Road, from Holland Road, straight up to Dempsey. We are the first shop. Anyway, you cannot miss the big signboard, Huber's Butchery. Go there, have a look. Even you don't want to buy, doesn't matter. Just go and have a look, okay? If you want to, interested about meat and sausages and all the products, come and have a look. It's a fantastic shop. It's 3 times the size of this room. It's a butcher shop, 3 times the size of this room. It's huge, It's very, very big. We employ there 34 people. 34 people. We serve everybody on a one-to-one basis. You come in, somebody will ask you, can I help you? What would you like? Whatever, and they serve you. Okay, on a one-to-one basis. No pre-cutting, nothing. Everything is there, whole pieces of meat. You tell them how you want it, thick, thin, left, right, whatever you want, they will cut for you. But just out of interest, I recommend that you go and have a look, okay? As part of your education, okay? To see meats. Even if you go there, ask questions. You can tell them you are a student at SHATEC, so you are here. You just want